The message appeared on Nathan's screen at exactly 8:17 in the evening. Happy anniversary, my love, I wish you were here tonight. For a brief second, he smiled. Then he looked up, and saw his wife kissing another man. Only 2 tables away. The champagne glass slipped slightly in his hand. Nobody noticed. Not Vanessa. Not the man holding her face. Not the waiter passing between them. The restaurant remained full of laughter and music. But for Nathan Brooks, every sound in the room disappeared. Seattle wore rain the way some people wore expensive watches. Effortlessly and every day. A soft drizzle painted silver streaks across the windows of Harbor and Vine, one of the city's most exclusive waterfront restaurants. Inside, warm amber lights reflected off crystal glasses and polished wood tables. Nathan Brooks sat alone near the back corner. A small velvet box rested inside the pocket of his jacket. 12 years. 12 years of marriage. He glanced at his watch. 8:15. Vanessa had told him she was attending a marketing dinner with clients from her firm. She said it would run late. She sounded disappointed when she told him. We'll celebrate this weekend instead, she had said over the phone that morning. Nathan remembered forcing a smile. Of course. But something about her voice had lingered in his mind all day. Not guilt. Not nervousness. Distance. A kind of distance that had become more common over the past year. He had spent months telling himself it was temporary. Work stress. Life. Marriage. People changed. Relationships evolved. That was what everyone said. Still, he had made a reservation at Harbor and Vine after seeing a social media post from one of Vanessa's coworkers mentioning the restaurant. A coincidence, perhaps. Or maybe an opportunity to surprise her. He imagined walking up to her table. Her shocked smile. The way she would laugh and shake her head. Maybe afterward they would talk. Really talk. The way they used to. Before schedules became walls. Before silence became normal. His phone vibrated. Nathan looked down. A text from Vanessa. A smile touched his lips. Then he opened it. Happy anniversary, my love, I wish you were here tonight. For a moment, warmth spread through him. Then a movement caught his eye. 2 tables away. A woman leaned across a candlelit table. Blonde hair. Black dress. Diamond earrings Nathan had purchased last Christmas. Vanessa. Time stopped. Or perhaps it stretched. The world suddenly moved underwater. Nathan stared. The man across from her smiled. Vanessa reached forward. Her fingers brushed his cheek. The gesture looked practiced. Comfortable. Intimate. Then she kissed him. Slowly. Like someone with absolutely nothing to hide. Nathan did not breathe. The phone remained in his hand. The text still glowing on the screen. I wish you were here tonight. His thumb trembled once. Only once. The restaurant continued around him. A fork touched a plate. Someone laughed near the bar. A waiter carried wine toward another table. Yet every sound seemed impossibly far away. Nathan looked back at the message. Then at Vanessa. Then back at the message. As if reality might rearrange itself if he checked enough times. It didn't. She was still there. Still smiling at another man. Still touching his hand. Still wearing the wedding ring Nathan had placed on her finger 12 years earlier. Something cracked inside him. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like ice breaking beneath deep water. Nathan lowered the phone. Across the room, Vanessa laughed at something the man said. Nathan knew that laugh. He knew every version of it. The polite one. The nervous one. The exhausted one. The genuine one. This was the genuine one. That realization hurt more than the kiss. Because it meant she was happy. At least in that moment. And she wasn't happy with him. The man said something. Vanessa leaned closer. Nathan studied him. Early 40s. Tailored suit. Expensive watch. Confident posture. A man accustomed to being admired. Nathan had never seen him before. But the familiarity between them was undeniable. Not a first date. Not a new flirtation. Something deeper. Something established. His chest tightened. Still, he remained seated. No confrontation. No shouting. No dramatic scene. Every instinct urged him to stand. To walk over. To demand answers. Yet another voice stopped him. A quieter voice. One that whispered. If you walk over there now, you'll only hear lies. Nathan stared at his untouched glass of wine. The condensation slowly slid down the stem. When he looked up again, Vanessa was checking her phone. A smile appeared. The same smile she often sent him in text messages. Nathan knew exactly what she was reading. The anniversary message. The lie. She was smiling at her own lie. Something about that detail cut deeper than everything else. Because the betrayal wasn't just physical. It was deliberate. Calculated. She had thought about him. Typed to him. Added a heart emoji. And then returned to another man. Nathan carefully stood. His chair made almost no sound. Nobody noticed him. Not even Vanessa. He placed cash on the table. More than enough to cover the bill. Then he walked toward the exit. Each step felt strangely calm. Outside, the rain had intensified. Cold droplets landed against his face. For several seconds he simply stood there. The city lights blurred across the wet pavement. His phone buzzed again. Another text. Vanessa. Love you. We'll celebrate soon. Nathan stared at the screen. The words looked foreign, like a language he no longer understood. Across the restaurant windows, he could still see her silhouette. Laughing. Living another life. A life he knew nothing about. The realization settled heavily in his chest. The kiss had been painful. But this was worse. Because a kiss could be a mistake. A double life could not. Nathan slipped the phone into his pocket. For the first time in 12 years, he wondered whether he truly knew the woman he had married. And somewhere deep inside him, beneath the shock and heartbreak, another feeling quietly began to grow. Not revenge. Not yet. A need for the truth. No matter how much it hurt. The hardest part was pretending nothing had happened. Not the betrayal. Not the sleepless nights. Not the images that replayed endlessly in Nathan's mind. The pretending. 3 mornings after the anniversary dinner, Nathan stood in the kitchen watching Vanessa pour coffee into her favorite ceramic mug. The same mug she had used for years. The same woman. The same kitchen. Everything looked exactly as it always had. That was what made it unbearable. Sunlight filtered through the windows overlooking Elliott Bay. The smell of freshly ground coffee filled the room. Vanessa looked up and smiled. You're staring. Nathan blinked. Sorry. She laughed softly. You've been distracted all week. The irony nearly made him choke. Instead, he forced a small smile and picked up his briefcase. Big project. You're always working. The comment was casual. But something about it lingered. Nathan remembered hearing those words before. Not once. Not twice. Many times over the past year. At the time, he had accepted them without question. Now he found himself wondering whether they had been excuses. Preparations. Tiny justifications repeated so often that eventually they became truth. Vanessa kissed his cheek. The gesture felt strangely foreign. Her perfume lingered after she walked away. Nathan stood motionless. 3 nights earlier he had watched those same lips kiss another man. Yet here she was making breakfast. Talking about weekend plans. As if reality existed in separate compartments. One for her husband. One for her secret life. And somehow neither world ever touched. Until now. Nathan did not confront her. Not because he lacked courage. Because he needed certainty. The lawyer part of his mind. Careful, methodical, patient. Refused to act on emotion alone. He wanted facts. Truth. Something stronger than heartbreak. So he watched. Quietly. The way an architect studies cracks in a foundation before deciding whether a building can be saved. At first, the inconsistencies seemed small. Almost insignificant. A late meeting that lasted longer than expected. A business dinner that somehow generated no photos despite Vanessa posting nearly everything online. A phone suddenly kept face down on tables. A passcode that had changed without explanation. Each detail by itself meant nothing. Together they formed a pattern. And patterns rarely lied. One Thursday afternoon, Nathan was reviewing construction plans in his office downtown when a memory surfaced unexpectedly. The man at the restaurant. The confident smile. The expensive watch. Something about him felt familiar. Nathan opened his laptop. For nearly an hour he searched through local business publications. Seattle entrepreneur. Technology investors. Charity galas. Executive networking events. Then he found him. A photograph. A magazine interview. A headline. Logan Pierce, the entrepreneur redefining luxury real estate investment. Nathan stared at the image. The same man. There was no doubt. The same face. The same smile. The same man Vanessa had kissed. Nathan leaned back slowly. His pulse accelerated. For the first time, the stranger had a name. Logan Pierce. 42 years old. Founder of multiple investment companies. Frequent guest at elite social events. Featured regularly in business magazines and social media coverage. The article described him as charismatic, visionary, influential, the kind of man people followed, the kind of man who filled rooms without speaking. Nathan continued reading. A photograph showed Logan standing beside local celebrities and politicians. Another showed him at a charity fundraiser. A third showed him aboard a yacht near San Juan Island. Nathan noticed something unexpected. A familiar face appeared in the background of one photograph. Not immediately obvious. Partially hidden behind another guest. But unmistakable. Vanessa. His stomach tightened. The image had been taken nearly 6 months earlier. 6 months. At least. Maybe longer. The affair suddenly felt larger. Older. More deliberate. That evening, Nathan sat across from Vanessa at dinner. She talked about a marketing campaign. A difficult client. An upcoming networking event. Nathan listened carefully. Every word felt different now. Not because she was lying constantly. Because he no longer knew when she was telling the truth. Trust, he realized, was not destroyed in a single moment. It poisoned everything afterward. Every smile. Every explanation. Every memory. You okay? Nathan looked up. Why? You seem distant. Distant. The word almost made him laugh. I've just been tired. She nodded. Accepting the answer instantly. Too instantly. Years ago she would have asked more questions. She would have pushed. She would have worried. Now she simply returned to her phone. Nathan watched her type a message. Her expression softened. The smile appeared. The same smile from Harbor and Vine. A smile she no longer realized he noticed. A few seconds later she locked the screen. The smile disappeared. And she became his wife again. The transformation frightened him. Days passed. Then another clue emerged. Saturday morning. Nathan was organizing financial documents in his home office. Nothing unusual. Just routine paperwork. Then he noticed a charge on one of their joint credit card statements. A luxury hotel downtown. $287. 3 months earlier. Nathan frowned. They had never stayed there together. He checked the date again. A Wednesday. During regular work hours. His chest tightened. He searched further. A high-end restaurant. A private wine lounge. Valet parking. All within the same area. The charges were spread across several months. Small enough to avoid attention. Consistent enough to reveal a habit. Nathan printed the statements. One by one. Carefully. Silently. When he finished, the stack sat on his desk like physical evidence of a marriage quietly bleeding to death. The following week delivered something even worse. Vanessa announced she would attend a charity networking gala. Nothing unusual. At least not on the surface. It's important for my career, she explained. Nathan nodded. Who organized it? She hesitated. Barely a second. But Nathan noticed. The usual sponsors. Ali. He recognized it immediately. Years of marriage had taught him every subtle change in her voice. Every nervous pause. Every defensive smile. That night, after she fell asleep, Nathan searched the event online. The host appeared immediately. The featured keynote speaker was Logan Pierce. Nathan stared at the screen. The room felt suddenly smaller. His wife had just lied directly to his face. Not accidentally. Not indirectly. Deliberately. The realization settled heavily inside him. This was no longer suspicion. No longer insecurity. No longer imagination. Vanessa was actively protecting another man. Protecting him from her husband. A week later, Nathan parked across the street from an upscale rooftop venue overlooking downtown Seattle. The charity event was underway. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Guests in formal attire moved through the lobby. Nathan remained inside his vehicle. Watching. Waiting. He hated himself for being there. Hated what his life had become. A husband secretly observing his own wife. But truth demanded a price. And he was no longer afraid to pay it. At 9:15 in the evening, Vanessa arrived. She stepped from a ride-share vehicle. Elegant black dress. Diamond earrings. Perfect smile. For a brief moment Nathan saw the woman he had fallen in love with. Then another figure approached. Tall. Confident. Expensive suit. Logan Pierce. Nathan's hands tightened around the steering wheel. He watched Logan place a hand gently against Vanessa's lower back. An intimate gesture. Natural. Comfortable. Familiar. Neither of them looked around. Neither of them acted cautiously. Because neither expected to be seen. Together they entered the building. Side by side. Like two people who belonged together. Nathan sat motionless. The city lights reflected across his windshield. Inside his chest, something changed. Not exploded. Not shattered. Changed. The hope that this might somehow be a misunderstanding finally died. The woman he loved was not trapped. Not confused. Not drifting. She was choosing. Again and again. Day after day. Lie after lie. Nathan looked toward the illuminated skyline. Then toward the entrance where Vanessa had disappeared. A cold realization settled over him. The investigation had begun because he wanted answers. Now he had them. At least some of them. But with every truth uncovered, another question emerged. How long had this been happening? And how much of his marriage had been real? As the rooftop lights glowed against the Seattle night, Nathan remained in his car long after everyone else had gone inside. Because for the first time, he understood something terrifying. The kiss at Harbor and Vine had not been the beginning of the story. It had merely been the first time he saw it. And somewhere beyond the lies, hidden behind months of secrets, there was still a much darker truth waiting for him. The first lie was never the most dangerous. The dangerous ones came afterward. The lies designed to protect the original lie. The lies that required more lies. The lies that slowly transformed a marriage into a performance. Nathan understood that now. 3 weeks had passed since Harbor and Vine. 3 weeks since he had watched Vanessa kiss Logan Pierce. 3 weeks of gathering evidence. 3 weeks of pretending he was still the same man. He wasn't. Something fundamental had shifted. Not his love. That was the problem. He still loved her. And that made everything hurt more. Rain tapped softly against the windows of their house on a Thursday evening. Nathan sat in the living room with a glass of bourbon untouched beside him. Vanessa entered carrying her laptop bag. She looked tired. Or perhaps she was simply becoming better at looking tired. Long day? Nathan asked. She kicked off her heels. You have no idea. The answer came automatically, without thought. Without hesitation. Nathan watched her carefully. Client meeting. 3 of them. Another immediate answer. She moved toward the kitchen. Nathan followed. For weeks he had rehearsed this moment. Not the accusations. The questions. He needed to understand how far she would go. How deeply she had buried herself inside the lies. You've been attending a lot of networking events lately. Vanessa paused briefly. Only a fraction of a second. Then she opened the refrigerator. Marketing is basically networking. More than usual. She shrugged. Our company wants visibility. Nathan nodded. Calm. Patient. I saw Logan Pierce was speaking at one of those events. The reaction was almost invisible. Almost. Her shoulders stiffened. Then relaxed. Too quickly. He's everywhere these days. Nathan studied her face. Have you met him? The refrigerator door closed. Vanessa turned toward him. For the first time, genuine caution appeared in her eyes. A couple of times. Nathan waited. She offered nothing more. A couple? Networking events. Fundraisers. Things like that. Her voice remained steady. Practiced. Prepared. The answer felt rehearsed. Nathan suddenly wondered how many times she had imagined this conversation before it happened. How many lies she had already prepared. That night they ate dinner together. The conversation remained polite. Normal. Almost painfully normal. Nathan spoke about a construction project. Vanessa discussed work. 2 married people sharing a meal. 2 strangers hiding behind familiar faces. The distance between them felt wider than the Pacific Ocean. Finally, Nathan set down his fork. When was the last time we were happy? Vanessa looked surprised. What? When was the last time we were genuinely happy? Silence settled between them. Outside, the rain intensified. Vanessa leaned back in her chair. Where is this coming from? I don't know. That was partly true. I've been thinking. About what? Us. The word lingered. Us. Once the simplest word in the world. Now the most complicated. Vanessa crossed her arms. You've barely been home for the last year. There it was. The first shift. The first redirection. Nathan recognized it instantly. The conversation had been about them. Now it was about him. I know I've worked a lot. A lot. She laughed. A sharp sound. Try constantly. Nathan remained calm. You could have told me you were unhappy. I did. No. He shook his head gently. You complained about my schedule. Her expression hardened. What's the difference? Nathan didn't answer immediately. Because there was a difference. A profound difference. One invited discussion. The other prepared justification. Later that evening, Vanessa disappeared upstairs to shower. Nathan remained alone in the kitchen. His eyes drifted toward the counter. Toward her purse. The leather designer bag she carried everywhere. For several minutes he simply stared at it. Then guilt washed over him. He hated this version of himself. The suspicious husband. The investigator. The man searching for proof against the woman he loved. Yet another voice answered immediately. You already have proof. You saw her. Nathan closed his eyes. Then opened the purse. Inside were ordinary things. Lipstick. Keys. Business cards. A small notebook. Nothing unusual. Then he noticed a folded piece of paper tucked inside a side compartment. A receipt. Nathan unfolded it. The logo at the top made his stomach drop. The Grand Meridian Hotel. A luxury hotel downtown. Dates. 3 weeks before Harbor and Vine. 2 guests. Executive suite. Check-in at 11:23 in the morning. Check-out at 4:47 in the afternoon. Nathan stared at the paper. The world seemed unnaturally quiet. He checked the date again. Wednesday. Vanessa had told him she was attending a regional marketing conference that day. A conference that apparently took place inside a luxury hotel suite. His hand tightened around the receipt. The paper crumpled slightly. A memory surfaced. That same evening she had come home smiling. Telling him how exhausting the conference had been. Telling him she missed him. Telling him she loved him. Nathan suddenly felt sick. Not because of the affair. Because of the ease. The effortless way she had lied. He replaced the receipt exactly where he found it. Minutes later Vanessa returned downstairs. Wet hair. Comfortable clothes. The woman he had spent 12 years loving. She smiled. Everything okay? Nathan looked at her. For one terrible moment he wanted to show her the receipt. Wanted to demand answers. Wanted to force the truth into the room. Instead he nodded. Yeah. The word tasted bitter. The second discovery happened 2 nights later. By accident. Or perhaps by fate. Vanessa had fallen asleep on the couch while scrolling through her phone. The screen remained illuminated. Nathan noticed it while walking through the living room. At first he intended to wake her. Then a notification appeared. Only briefly. Long enough. Logan, I miss. The rest disappeared. Deleted. The notification vanished before the message fully displayed. Nathan froze. His pulse accelerated. He looked at Vanessa. Still asleep. Still unaware. Carefully, he picked up the phone. The screen required facial recognition. Locked. But the notification history remained partially visible. Several deleted alerts. Recent removals. A conversation hidden. Protected. Concealed. Nathan's breathing slowed. Not from calmness. From control. The kind of control that develops when pain becomes familiar. When heartbreak stops surprising you. When disappointment begins arriving exactly where expected. The message itself wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the deletion. Because deletion meant awareness. Awareness meant intent. Intent meant guilt. Vanessa knew exactly what she was hiding. The confrontation finally came the following Sunday. Not explosive. Not dramatic. Quiet. Almost civilized. Which somehow made it more devastating. They sat on opposite ends of the living room. The television muted. The house silent. Nathan held the hotel receipt. Vanessa immediately noticed. Color drained from her face. Only slightly. But enough. "What is that?" she asked. Nathan looked directly into her eyes. A question. Neither moved. Neither looked away. Nathan placed the receipt on the coffee table. Between them. Like evidence presented in court. Vanessa stared at it. Then looked up. Then back down. Nathan saw the panic arrive. Tiny at first. Then growing. "What exactly are you asking?" The response told him everything. Not confusion. Not curiosity. Defense. Immediate defense. "You told me you were at a conference." "I was." Nathan nodded slowly. "Then why were you in an executive suite at the Grand Meridian?" For the first time she had no answer. Seconds passed. Long. Heavy. Dangerous. Then she found one. "You went through my things." Nathan almost laughed. There it was again. The redirection. The escape route. The attempt to put him on trial instead. "You lied to me. You invaded my privacy. You lied. You've become paranoid." The word struck him harder than expected. Paranoid. Not hurt. Not concerned. Not sorry. Paranoid. Nathan stared at the woman across from him. And slowly realized something terrifying. Vanessa was no longer trying to protect the truth. She was trying to make him doubt it. Gaslighting. Manipulation. Whatever name people gave it. The result was the same. She wanted him to question his own reality. But Nathan had already seen reality. At Harbor and Vine. 2 tables away. The image returned with brutal clarity. The kiss. The smile. The anniversary text. The lie. And for the first time since this nightmare began, he stopped wondering whether he was imagining things. He wasn't. Vanessa was lying. The receipt proved it. The deleted message proved it. And deep down, behind the fear in her eyes, she knew it too. The question was no longer whether she had betrayed him. The question was how much worse the truth would be once everything finally came to light. Nathan looked at her quietly. And for the first time since their marriage began, he realized trust was no longer cracking. It was collapsing. One lie at a time. A marriage rarely dies all at once. Most of the time, it dies in pieces. A forgotten conversation. A hidden message. A lie told too easily. A truth withheld too often. And sometimes, when the damage becomes impossible to hide, one person discovers that the life they thought they were living was only half the story. Nathan Brooks began to understand that reality during the weeks following their confrontation. The receipt had changed everything. Not because Vanessa confessed. She didn't. Not because she apologized. She didn't do that either. Instead, she doubled down. The denial became stronger. The explanations became more elaborate. And somehow, every discussion eventually returned to the same conclusion. Nathan was working too much. Nathan was imagining things. Nathan was insecure. Nathan was creating problems where none existed. The more she spoke, the more Nathan noticed a frightening pattern. Vanessa never addressed the actual evidence. She only attacked the person presenting it. At first, that realization hurt. Eventually, it became useful. Because once he stopped listening to her words, he began seeing her actions more clearly. And her actions told an entirely different story. 3 days after their confrontation, Nathan attended a business luncheon at a luxury hotel downtown. The event itself was unremarkable. Developers. Investors. Architects. The usual conversations. The usual networking. The usual promises. Halfway through the afternoon, however, something unexpected happened. A giant digital display near the ballroom entrance began showing photographs from recent Seattle charity galas. Nathan barely paid attention. Until he saw her. Vanessa. The image flashed across the screen for only a few seconds. Yet it felt like a punch to the chest. She stood beside a group of elegantly dressed guests beneath a wall of sponsor logos. Champagne glass in hand. Perfect smile. Designer gown. She looked completely at ease. Like someone who belonged there. Nathan stared. The date displayed beneath the photograph. 6 months earlier. He remembered that night. Vanessa had told him she was attending a marketing seminar. A seminar. Not a charity gala attended by Seattle's wealthiest social circles. Not an invitation-only event. Not an evening spent standing 3 feet from Logan Pierce. Because Logan was there too, visible in the same photograph. Watching her. Smiling. The image disappeared. Another replaced it. But Nathan remained frozen. A new piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. And the picture becoming visible was uglier than he expected. That evening he began searching more deeply. Not for evidence of the affair. He already knew the affair existed. Now he wanted to understand Vanessa herself. What exactly had changed? What was she chasing? What had become more important than their marriage? The answers arrived gradually, like fragments of a hidden diary scattered across the internet. Social media posts, charity websites, event photography archives, business networking pages. Most people never noticed these things. Nathan certainly never had. But once he started looking, he saw Vanessa everywhere. Always slightly in the background. Always positioned near influential people. Luxury venues. Private fundraisers. Executive cocktail receptions. Art gallery openings. Political donor events. Places she never mentioned at home. Places Nathan had never been invited to. Places she apparently attended regularly. For months. A cold realization settled over him. This wasn't simply an affair. It was a second life. One Saturday morning, Nathan sat alone in his home office studying photographs on his laptop. Outside, Seattle's gray skies hung low over the bay. Inside, the evidence continued growing. One image caught his attention. Vanessa standing beside Logan at a rooftop charity event. Not touching. Not kissing. Nothing inappropriate. Yet the intimacy was unmistakable. The way she looked at him. The way she angled her body toward him. The way her smile seemed brighter than any smile Nathan had seen in years. He enlarged the photograph. A small detail suddenly appeared. Vanessa's dress. Nathan remembered buying it. Nearly $2,000. She had claimed it was necessary for a corporate awards dinner. Another lie. Another carefully constructed story. Another moment when she had looked directly into his eyes and chosen deception. Nathan leaned back in his chair. For the first time, anger began replacing heartbreak. Not explosive anger. Something colder. More dangerous. Because heartbreak still searches for excuses. Anger sees things clearly. That night Vanessa returned home unusually cheerful. Nathan was sitting in the living room reading. Or pretending to read. She dropped her purse onto a chair. "You should have come out tonight." Nathan looked up. Oh. There was a great networking event. The irony was almost unbearable. Who was there? Vanessa hesitated. Then smiled. A lot of people. Nathan waited. No further explanation came. He nodded. Sounds nice. She relaxed immediately. As though she had passed another test. As though another lie had survived. The ease of it shocked him. Months ago, deception had probably terrified her. Now it seemed routine. Comfortable. Practiced. Nathan wondered how many boundaries had been crossed before someone stopped feeling guilty. The answer arrived unexpectedly the following week. A former colleague contacted him. Ethan Wallace. An investment consultant Nathan had known for years. They met for coffee near Pioneer Square. The conversation began with business. Then shifted elsewhere. Ethan said carefully. "You ever hear of Logan Pierce?" Nathan remained expressionless. "A little." Ethan studied him. "Be careful." Nathan's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Ethan stirred his coffee. "He likes collecting people." Nathan frowned. "Collecting? Useful people." The words lingered. Ethan continued. "He brings them into his orbit." "Why?" "Because influence is addictive." Nathan said nothing. A terrible feeling was beginning to form. Ethan sighed. "I've seen it happen before." "What happens?" "The same thing every time." He looked directly at Nathan. "They think they're entering a relationship. A pause. He thinks he's building a portfolio." Nathan drove home in silence. The Seattle skyline blurred beyond his windshield. Traffic lights reflected across wet pavement. His mind replayed every discovery. Every photograph. Every hidden event. Every lie. And gradually another truth emerged. Vanessa wasn't merely having an affair. She was reinventing herself. The woman Nathan married had once laughed at luxury culture. Once mocked social climbers. Once preferred small dinners with friends over glamorous parties. That woman seemed increasingly distant. In her place stood someone new. Someone chasing status. Attention. Anxious. A woman determined to enter a world she believed she deserved. And Logan Pierce had become the doorway. 2 nights later, Nathan received confirmation. Pure accident. Vanessa had left her tablet on the kitchen counter. Unlike her phone, it wasn't locked. A notification appeared. Not a message. An email. A guest confirmation. Nathan's stomach tightened. The subject line read, "Private membership reception. VIP access approved." He opened it. What he found left him staring at the screen. Vanessa had been using a professional biography he had never seen before. The profile described her as a rising social entrepreneur, a community leader, an emerging figure in Seattle's philanthropic circles. Her accomplishments had been exaggerated. Several achievements were partially fabricated. Most disturbing of all, her marital status was omitted entirely. No mention of Nathan. No mention of her husband. No mention of 12 years of shared life. It was as if he no longer existed. As if she were quietly erasing him from her story. Nathan read the profile twice. Then a third time. The words blurred together. Not because he was crying. Because he was finally seeing the full picture. The affair wasn't a mistake. It wasn't loneliness. It wasn't emotional confusion. It wasn't a temporary lapse in judgment. It was a choice. A conscious choice. Repeated over and over. Vanessa wasn't drifting away from her marriage. She was actively building a replacement life. One where Nathan didn't belong. One where Logan opened doors. One where status mattered more than loyalty. One where ambition mattered more than love. Nathan closed the tablet. His hands remained steady. Surprisingly steady. Perhaps because the worst pain had already happened. The night at Harbor and Vine. The anniversary message. The kiss. Everything afterward had merely confirmed what his heart already knew. Upstairs, he heard Vanessa moving around their bedroom. Humming softly. Perfectly unaware. Nathan stared out the kitchen window. The city lights shimmered beyond the darkness. And for the first time since discovering the affair, he stopped asking whether the marriage could be saved. Instead, another question emerged. One far more important. How much longer was he willing to let her believe she controlled the story? Because somewhere beneath the heartbreak, beneath the humiliation, beneath the grief, Nathan Brooks was beginning to wake up. And when he finally did, the carefully constructed world Vanessa had built around her lies might not survive the truth. The strangest part of heartbreak was how stubborn hope could be. Even after the lies. Even after the evidence. Even after watching the person you loved become someone you barely recognized. A small part of the heart kept searching for a reason to stay. Nathan hated that part of himself. Yet he couldn't destroy it. Not yet. Because beneath the betrayal, beneath the anger, 12 years still existed. 12 years of birthdays. Road trips. Shared dreams. Late-night conversations. Quiet mornings. Inside jokes nobody else understood. A marriage was not only its ending. It was everything that came before. And Nathan owed that history one final chance. 3 days after discovering Vanessa's hidden social profile, he asked her to dinner. Not at Harbor and Vine. Never there again. Instead, he chose a small restaurant overlooking Lake Union. A place they used to visit when money was tight and life felt simple. Vanessa looked surprised when he made the reservation. "You planned a date night?" Nathan smiled faintly. "Something like that." For a brief moment, genuine uncertainty crossed her face. Almost guilt. Almost. The restaurant had changed very little over the years. The same wooden tables. The same soft lighting. The same view of boats drifting across dark water. Nathan arrived first. By the time Vanessa walked in, rain was tapping gently against the windows. She looked beautiful. That realization still hurt. A black coat. Loose blonde hair. Minimal makeup. The woman he fell in love with. The woman who had become a stranger. She sat down across from him. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence wasn't hostile. It was heavy. Like two people standing in the ruins of something neither knew how to rebuild. Finally, Vanessa smiled. "You seem different lately." Nathan studied her. "I am." The smile faded. Dinner arrived. Neither touched it much. Nathan had rehearsed this conversation dozens of times. Now the words felt strangely difficult. Not because he didn't know what to say. Because he cared about the answer. I need you to be honest with me. Vanessa looked down briefly. Then back up. About what? Nathan exhaled slowly. About us. The rain continued outside. A couple laughed softly at another table. Life moved forward. Their marriage stood still. I know things haven't been good. Nathan's voice remained calm. I know I've worked too much. Vanessa said nothing. I know we've drifted apart. Still silence. Nathan leaned forward. But if there's something happening? If there's someone else? The words nearly caught in his throat. Tell me. For the first time all evening, genuine emotion appeared in Vanessa's eyes. Fear. Guilt. Sadness. Maybe all three. Nathan saw it. And hope surged unexpectedly. Perhaps this was it. Perhaps the walls were finally coming down. Perhaps she was about to tell the truth. Vanessa lowered her gaze. Her fingers tightened around the wine glass. For several seconds she remained silent. Then, she whispered. You really think that little of me? Nathan felt the hope collapse instantly. Not confession. Deflection. Again. Always deflection. By the time they returned home, nothing had been resolved. Yet something had changed. Vanessa seemed quieter. Thoughtful. Distracted. For the next few days, her behavior shifted noticeably. She came home earlier. She spent less time on her phone. She initiated conversations. One evening she even suggested watching a movie together. The changes were small, but they were real. Nathan noticed every one. And despite everything, he wanted to believe. God, he wanted to believe. Maybe the confrontation had reached her. Maybe she was realizing what she stood to lose. Maybe the marriage wasn't dead yet. For the first time in weeks, hope returned. Carefully. Cautiously. Like sunlight appearing through storm clouds. Then came Friday. The day that destroyed it all. Nathan wasn't supposed to be home. A client meeting had been scheduled across town. At the last minute, it was cancelled. So he returned early. The house was empty. Quiet. Nathan set his briefcase down and walked toward the kitchen. Then he heard it. A voice. Vanessa's voice. Upstairs. Laughing. Not unusual. Until he realized she was on the phone. Nathan paused. The laughter continued. Warm. Playful. Intimate. The same laugh he remembered from Harbfrom and Vine. A moment later he heard her speak. Softly. Almost affectionately. I miss you too. Silence followed. Then another laugh. Nathan didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't make a sound. A few seconds later he heard footsteps. The bedroom door opened. Then closed. By the time Vanessa came downstairs, the call had already ended. She froze when she saw him. Only for a second. But Nathan saw it. Saw the shock. Saw the panic. Saw the rapid calculation behind her eyes. When did you get home? Just now. The lie came easily. Too easily. Nathan hated himself for it. Vanessa smiled. Relief visible. Meeting finish early. Yeah. She nodded. Nothing more. Nothing less. And just like that, another opportunity for honesty disappeared. That night Nathan couldn't sleep. The rain returned after midnight. Wind rattled the bedroom windows. Beside him, Vanessa slept peacefully. At least she appeared to. Nathan stared at the ceiling. Thinking. Remembering. Questioning. Then a realization emerged. Painfully simple. If Vanessa truly feared losing him, she would tell the truth. If she truly wanted reconciliation, she would stop seeing Logan. If she truly valued the marriage, she would fight for it. Instead, she was doing something else. Something worse. She was managing him. Giving him just enough hope to keep him calm. Just enough affection to keep him waiting. Just enough effort to prevent consequences. The thought settled heavily inside his chest. For weeks Nathan had viewed himself as the weak one. The abandoned husband. The man being left behind. Now he saw something different. Vanessa wasn't staying because she loved him. She was staying because she believed she could have both worlds. The marriage. And Logan. Security. And excitement. Loyalty. And betrayal. She believed she could keep everything. Because she no longer feared losing anything. The proof arrived 2 days later. Sunday afternoon. Nathan was reviewing project documents in his office when an email notification appeared. A shared cloud account. One they had used for years. Most couples ignored such things. Nathan almost did. Then he noticed the attachment. A digital invitation. Esclusive. Private. Invitation only. Hosted by Logan Pierce. The guest list included prominent investors, politicians, and media personalities. Nathan stared at the screen. One name appeared among the confirmed attendees. Vanessa Brooks. Not only attending. Confirmed. Personally invited. The event was scheduled for the following Thursday. The same Thursday Vanessa had already told him she would be visiting her mother. Nathan closed his eyes. For several moments he simply sat there, breathing slowly. The betrayal itself no longer shocked him. What shocked him was the confidence. The arrogance. The assumption that he would never discover the truth. That he would continue believing whatever explanation she offered. That he would remain exactly where she left him. Waiting. Trusting. Forgiving. Thursday arrived. Vanessa stood near the front door adjusting her coat. My mother's expecting me. Nathan looked up from the living room. Right. She smiled. A beautiful smile. One that once meant everything. Now it felt rehearsed. I might stay late. I'm sure you will. The words slipped out before he could stop them. For the first time, uncertainty appeared in her expression. What does that mean? Nathan held her gaze. Just long enough. Then shrugged. Nothing. The tension lingered. Then vanished. Vanessa grabbed her purse. Moments later the front door closed. Nathan walked to the window. Watched her leave. Watched the rideshare disappear down the street. Watched the woman he loved drive toward another man. And for the first time, he didn't feel confusion. Or disbelief. Or denial. Only clarity. Cold, painful clarity. Vanessa no longer feared losing her husband. That was the real tragedy. Not the affair. Not Logan. Not the lies. The tragedy was that she believed Nathan would always be there. No matter how badly she treated him. No matter how many boundaries she crossed. No matter how many chances she wasted. She believed his love had no limit. And that belief had become her greatest mistake. Nathan remained at the window long after she disappeared. The city lights flickered beyond the rain. Somewhere across Seattle, Vanessa was walking deeper into the life she had chosen. A life built on secrets. Status. Ambition. And deception. What she didn't know was that Nathan had finally stopped trying to understand her choices. Because another realization had taken root. The next chapter of this story would not be about saving a marriage. It would be about discovering who Logan Pierce really was. And whether the fantasy Vanessa was chasing was as perfect as she believed. For months, Nathan had imagined Logan Pierce as a rival. A better man. A more successful man. A man who had somehow offered Vanessa something Nathan could not. That assumption lingered even after all the lies. Even after all the evidence. Because betrayal had a way of creating illusions. The betrayed spouse often imagined the affair partner as extraordinary. Someone worth destroying a marriage for. Someone powerful enough to justify the pain. Nathan carried that illusion longer than he wanted to admit. Then it began to crack. And what emerged underneath was far uglier. The first fracture appeared through Ethan Wallace. They met again at a quiet whiskey bar near the waterfront. Rain pressed against the windows. The city glowed beyond the glass. Nathan arrived carrying months of exhaustion behind his eyes. Ethan noticed immediately. You look terrible. Nathan laughed quietly. I feel worse. For a while they discussed business. Eventually the conversation shifted. Logan Pierce. Again. Ethan swirled the ice in his glass. You know what Logan's biggest talent is? Nathan waited. Making people feel chosen. The answer surprised him. Ethan continued. He studies people. What does that mean? He figures out exactly what they're missing. Nathan listened carefully. Attention. Status. Validation. Opportunity. Ethan took a sip. Then he becomes the source. The words settled heavily between them. People mistake that for love. Nathan looked away. Toward the rain-covered windows. Toward the city. Toward the life he barely recognized anymore. And what does he get? Ethan smiled sadly. Entertainment. A week later, another piece of the puzzle arrived unexpectedly. Nathan attended a commercial development conference in Bellevue. Hundreds of professionals filled the convention center. Investors, developers, executives, public officials. The kind of event Logan frequently attended. Nathan wasn't looking for him, yet fate seemed determined to place Logan in his path. During a networking reception, Nathan found himself standing near a private executive lounge. The doors remained partially open. Inside, several businessmen were talking, laughing, drinking expensive bourbon. Nathan recognized one voice immediately. Logan. The sound made his stomach tighten. Instinctively, he paused. Not close enough to be seen. Close enough to hear. At first the conversation seemed harmless. Business deals. Investment opportunities. Political fundraising. Then someone's voice mentioned relationships. The tone shifted. The men laughed. One executive grinned. What happened to the blonde? Logan chuckled. Which one? More laughter. Another voice answered. The married one. Nathan froze. Every muscle in his body became rigid. Logan leaned back in his chair. Still around. The casualness in his voice felt almost surreal. The conversation continued. What are you going to do about her? Another laugh. Then Logan said something Nathan would never forget. Nothing. What do you mean? She's fun. A pause. That's all. The room erupted with amusement. Nathan stood perfectly still, his pulse pounding. Inside the lounge, Logan continued speaking. Not realizing the husband of the woman he was discussing stood only yards away. She thinks this is heading somewhere. More laughter. One of the men shook his head. Doesn't it? Logan smirked. No. The answer came instantly. Without hesitation. Without guilt. Without remorse. Eventually, she'll figure it out. Someone raised a glass. Cold. Logan shrugged. I never promised forever. The conversation moved on. But Nathan heard nothing else. The words remained lodged inside his mind. Sharp. Permanent. She's fun. That's all. Driving home that night felt surreal. Traffic flowed around him. Headlights reflected across wet pavement. Seattle moved normally. Nathan's world did not. For months he had imagined Vanessa running toward a grand romance. A passionate love story. Something powerful enough to justify the destruction she left behind. Instead, she was running toward a man who mocked her. A man who laughed about her. A man who viewed her as temporary entertainment. The realization should have brought satisfaction. Instead, it brought sadness. Because no matter what Vanessa had done, Nathan once loved her enough to imagine growing old together. Watching her destroy herself for someone like Logan felt tragic. The next few weeks revealed even more. Nathan stopped looking at Vanessa. He started looking at Logan. The difference was important. One investigation focused on betrayal. The other focused on truth. And truth proved remarkably easy to find. Patterns emerged. Women appearing beside Logan at events. Then disappearing. Social media photographs. Archived guest lists. Former assistants. Former companions. Former relationships. The names changed. The pattern never did. Attention. Exclusivity. Affection. Then distance. Then replacement. Like clockwork. Nathan wasn't looking at a romantic partner. He was looking at a collector. A man addicted to admiration. A man who measured people by usefulness. A man who enjoyed being desired far more than actually loving anyone. And somehow, Vanessa couldn't see it. Or refused to. Meanwhile, the marriage continued deteriorating. Not dramatically. Quietly. Almost professionally. Vanessa spent more evenings away from home. More weekends occupied by events. More nights glued to her phone. The small moments vanished first. Shared breakfasts. Movie nights. Conversations before bed. Simple rituals that once defined their life together. Nathan noticed something else. She no longer even pretended very hard. The caution was fading. The secrecy becoming careless. Confidence replacing fear. One evening she arrived home after midnight. Nathan sat in the living room reading. Or pretending to. Vanessa barely looked at him. You're still awake. Nathan lowered the book. Couldn't sleep. She nodded. Nothing more. No explanation. No apology. No concern. Just indifference. The emotional distance felt greater than ever. And yet Vanessa seemed oddly happy. Not guilty. Not conflicted. Happy. As though she believed she was finally becoming the person she was meant to be. A month later Nathan attended another charity event for professional reasons. There he witnessed something that confirmed everything. Across the ballroom, Vanessa stood beside Logan. Radiant. Smiling. Completely absorbed by him. Nathan watched from a distance. Neither noticed him. The scene looked romantic from the outside. Elegant. Sophisticated. The kind of image people envied. Then Logan's attention shifted. A younger woman approached. A venture capitalist from California. Beautiful. Successful. Connected. Logan immediately changed. His focus moved. His body language adjusted. His smile sharpened. Within minutes he was speaking to the newcomer, who, ignoring Vanessa entirely. Nathan watched the transformation happen in real time. Vanessa noticed too. The disappointment appeared briefly, then vanished beneath another practiced smile. She remained beside Logan, waiting, hoping, trying to regain his attention. And suddenly Nathan understood. For the first time since Harbor and Vine, he saw Vanessa clearly. Not as a villain. Not as a victim. But as someone trapped inside her own illusion. She had sacrificed loyalty for a fantasy. And the fantasy didn't even value her. That realization haunted him. Because the woman sitting across from him at breakfast each morning still believed she was moving towards something extraordinary. She believed Logan represented her future. Her escape. Her reward. Meanwhile Logan privately laughed about her. Dismissed her. Reduced her entire existence to temporary amusement. The imbalance was devastating. And dangerous. Because illusions rarely collapse gently. They shattered. Violently. Without warning. One rainy Sunday evening, Nathan stood alone on the back patio of their home. The city lights flickered beyond the darkness. Inside, Vanessa was preparing for another event. Another gala. Another evening in the life she preferred. Nathan heard her moving through the house. He no longer felt jealous. That surprised him. Months earlier, every mention of Logan had ignited rage. Now he felt something different. Distance. Clarity. The emotional wound remained. But the obsession was fading. Replacing it was understanding. Logan wasn't the hero of Vanessa's story. He wasn't even the prize. He was merely the mechanism through which she was destroying everything. And eventually she would discover that truth herself. The question was whether she would realize it before losing everything. Or after. Nathan already suspected the answer. Because every day Vanessa moved farther from her husband. Farther from reality. Farther from the life she once claimed to value. And every step brought her closer to a fall she couldn't yet see coming. A fall that had already begun. Even if she was the last person to notice. The beginning of the end did not arrive with a scream. It arrived in a plain white envelope. Simple. Ordinary. Almost disappointingly quiet. After everything that had happened, Nathan expected to feel something dramatic when the divorce papers were finally prepared. Anger. Relief. Vindication. Instead, he felt tired. Profoundly tired. Because the marriage had ended long before the paperwork began. The legal process was merely catching up to reality. The decision came on a gray Tuesday morning. Vanessa was attending another networking event. Or at least that was what she called it. Nathan sat alone in his office reviewing the final report prepared by his attorney. Financial disclosures. Property agreements. Asset divisions. 12 years of life reduced to documents. Signatures. Numbers. Dates. The strange bureaucracy of heartbreak. His attorney, Margaret Sullivan, looked across the conference table. Are you certain? Nathan stared at the papers. Months earlier he would have hesitated. Months earlier he would have searched for another solution. Another conversation. Another chance. Now he simply nodded. Yes. The answer surprised even him. Because for the first time since Harbor and Vine, there was no uncertainty attached to it. Only acceptance. Margaret slid the documents toward him. Nathan signed. One signature. Then another. Then another. The sound of the pen moving across paper seemed unusually loud. When he finished, Margaret closed the folder. It begins now. Nathan looked out the window. Rain covered downtown Seattle. A familiar storm. A familiar city. Yet everything felt different. Because something inside him had finally let go. Vanessa received the papers 2 days later. Nathan wasn't home when it happened. He was meeting with a client in Bellevue. His phone rang shortly after noon. Vanessa. He stared at the screen. Then answered. Silence. Heavy breathing. Finally. You filed for divorce. Nathan closed his eyes. The moment had arrived. Yes. More silence. Then disbelief. No. The response sounded automatic. Childlike. As though reality itself had made a mistake. You can't be serious. Nathan remained calm. I am. Another pause. Then anger. Sudden. Sharp. What is wrong with you? The question almost made him laugh. Not because it was funny. Because it was astonishing. Months of lies. Months of deception. Months of betrayal. Yet somehow she still viewed herself as the injured party. You know what's wrong. Vanessa's voice hardened. So that's it? Nathan looked out across the parking lot. People moved through the rain carrying umbrellas. Normal lives. Normal problems. Meanwhile, his marriage was finally collapsing. It ended a long time ago, Vanessa. The silence that followed felt different. Not anger. Fear. Real fear. The kind she hadn't experienced before. Because for the first time, consequences were no longer theoretical. That evening Vanessa came home early. Very early. Nathan was sitting in the living room. She entered carrying the divorce papers. Her face pale. Her eyes red. The documents trembled slightly in her hands. You actually did it. Nathan said nothing. What happened to fighting for us? The question struck him harder than expected. Because he had fought. For months. For years, perhaps. He simply stopped fighting alone. I gave you chances. Vanessa looked away. Only briefly. But it was enough. For the first time, neither of them argued. Neither blamed. Neither shouted. The truth sat between them. Visible. Undeniable. And both knew it. The following weeks changed everything. Not immediately. Gradually. Like a building collapsing one support beam at a time. At first Vanessa appeared confident. Almost relieved. Nathan noticed it. The subtle shift. The absence of panic. The quiet assumption that Logan would fill the space Nathan left behind. After all, why wouldn't he? Hadn't she chosen him? Hadn't she sacrificed her marriage for him? Hadn't she invested nearly a year of her life in that relationship? Surely there was a future waiting at the end of it. At least that was what Vanessa seemed to believe. The confidence remained for approximately 3 weeks. Then the cracks began. The first crack came through her friends. Or rather, the friends she thought she had. Seattle's elite social circles thrived on appearances. Status. Reputation. Perception. The same people who welcomed Vanessa into exclusive events suddenly became distant. Messages received slower responses. Invitations became less frequent. Conversations felt colder. More formal. Less personal. At first she blamed coincidence. Bad timing. Busy schedules. Eventually the pattern became impossible to ignore. People had chosen sides. And many of them were not choosing hers. The second crack came from family. Nathan learned about that one accidentally. He arrived home one evening and heard raised voices from the kitchen. Vanessa was speaking with her older sister, Rebecca. The conversation was tense. Painful. Raw. Nathan remained in the hallway. Not listening intentionally. Unable to avoid it. You threw everything away. Rebecca's voice shook. You don't understand. No. Rebecca laughed bitterly. You don't understand. Silence followed. Then Vanessa spoke quietly. I wasn't happy. Rebecca answered immediately. Then leave. The words landed like stones. If you're unhappy, leave. Another pause. But don't lie for months. Nathan heard nothing after that. A door closed. Footsteps. Then silence. The kind of silence that follows an uncomfortable truth. The third crack came from Logan. And unlike the others, it couldn't be ignored. For months he had been attentive. Available. Present. At least from Vanessa's perspective. Now something changed. Calls became shorter. Messages arrived later. Plans were cancelled more frequently. The differences appeared small at first. Then grew. 1 cancelled dinner. 2 cancelled weekends. 3 missed events. Then entire stretches of distance. Nathan observed it all quietly. Not because he wanted to. Because it was impossible not to. Vanessa's frustration became visible. The smiles disappeared. The confidence faded. The certainty eroded. One evening she sat staring at her phone for nearly an hour. Waiting. Checking. Waiting again. Nathan recognized the behavior instantly. He had done the same thing himself months earlier. Waiting for affection from someone emotionally unavailable. The irony was painful. The real collapse began in early autumn. A charity gala was scheduled at one of Seattle's most prestigious hotels. The kind of event Vanessa once considered proof she had finally entered the world she dreamed about. Logan was expected to attend. So were investors. Media personalities. Political figures. Everyone who mattered. Vanessa spent days preparing. New dress. Professional styling. Carefully planned details. She treated the event as though it represented a turning point. Nathan suspected she believed Logan would finally make their relationship public. Official. Legitimate. Permanent. She never said it aloud. She didn't need to. Hope radiated from her. The same dangerous hope Nathan once carried himself. The evening arrived. Vanessa left the house glowing with anticipation. Nathan watched from the window. The sight triggered an unexpected emotion. Not resentment. Sadness. Because he finally understood something. Vanessa still believed she was moving toward a happy ending. She genuinely believed the sacrifices had meaning. That the betrayal would eventually be justified by the reward waiting ahead. Nathan wished he could tell her the truth. Not because he wanted to save her. Because he knew what it felt like to discover your future was built on an illusion. But some lessons could not be taught. Only experienced. Around midnight she returned home. Nathan immediately knew something was wrong. The difference was visible before she even entered the house. The posture. The expression. The absence of excitement. She walked through the front door slowly. Like someone carrying invisible weight. Without a word, she removed her shoes. Set down her purse. And disappeared upstairs. Nathan remained seated in the darkness. Listening. A few minutes later he heard it. Crying. Soft at first. Then harder. The sound echoed through the house. Painfully familiar. Months earlier that sound would have brought him running. Now he remained where he was. Not out of cruelty. Out of understanding. Some wounds could not be healed by the people who didn't create them. The following morning provided no answers. Vanessa looked exhausted. Eyes swollen. Shoulders tense. Nathan drank coffee quietly. Eventually she spoke. Do you ever regret decisions? Nathan looked up. The question hung in the air. Heavy. Loaded. Dangerous. Sometimes. Vanessa nodded slowly. As though confirming something to herself. Then she stared out the kitchen window. The silence that followed said more than any conversation could. Because for the first time since Harbor and Vine, Nathan saw doubt. Real doubt. Not about the marriage. About Logan. About the future. About the fantasy she had built her life around. And once doubt entered, collapse was never far behind. The illusion was breaking. The people around her were disappearing. Her family was questioning her. Her social circle was distancing itself. And the man she sacrificed everything for was becoming colder with every passing week. Vanessa still didn't know the full truth. She still didn't understand how completely Logan had deceived her. But she was beginning to feel it. And feelings were harder to ignore than facts. Nathan watched her quietly across the breakfast table. The woman who once controlled the narrative was losing her grip on it. The woman who once believed she could have everything was discovering the cost. And somewhere ahead, beyond the divorce, beyond the lies, beyond the collapse, the final reckoning was waiting. Neither of them knew exactly when it would arrive. Only that it was coming. And when it did, nothing in Vanessa's carefully constructed world would survive unchanged. Some endings arrive with a bang. Others arrive with a mirror. A moment so brutally honest that a person is finally forced to see themselves exactly as they are. For Vanessa Brooks, that moment arrived on a cold November evening beneath crystal chandeliers and television cameras. It arrived wearing a designer gown, holding a champagne glass. Still believing there was something left to save. She had no idea it would be the night everything finally ended. The Grand Regent Ballroom stood at the center of Seattle's most prestigious charity gala of the year. The event attracted everyone who mattered. Business leaders. Investors. Politicians. Media personalities. Philanthropists. the city's elite. Months earlier, receiving an invitation would have felt like a dream to Vanessa. Tonight, it felt like a lifeline. Because over the previous 6 weeks, Logan had become increasingly distant. Calls unanswered. Plans cancelled. Messages growing shorter. The attention that once felt intoxicating had slowly disappeared. Every instinct told her something was wrong. Yet she refused to believe the obvious. Not after everything she had sacrificed. Not after her marriage. Not after her reputation. Not after the life she had destroyed to be with him. There had to be a reason. A misunderstanding. A temporary problem. Something. Anything. Because the alternative was unbearable. The alternative meant admitting she had traded everything for an illusion. The ballroom glittered with wealth and influence. Laughter floated through the air. Cameras flashed. Champagne flowed. Vanessa searched the room. Looking for Logan. Finding him almost immediately. He stood near a group of investors. Confident. Relaxed. Perfectly at home. For a brief moment relief washed over her. Then she noticed something. He wasn't looking for her. Not once. Not even casually. The realization created a small knot in her stomach. Still, she approached. Smiling. Hopeful. Trying not to appear nervous. Hey. Logan glanced toward her. The smile he offered seemed polite. Nothing more. No warmth. No excitement. No intimacy. Just politeness. Like greeting a distant acquaintance. Vanessa felt her chest tighten. Can we talk later? Logan checked his watch. Maybe. Maybe. Not, yes. Not of course. Not anything reassuring. Maybe. The word lingered long after he turned away. For the next hour she watched him move through the room. Networking. Laughing. Shaking hands. Talking with donors. Talking with executives. Talking with everyone. Everyone except her. Each minute deepened the growing unease inside her. This wasn't normal. Something had changed. Something significant. The illusion she spent months protecting was beginning to crack beyond repair. Then came the moment that shattered it completely. Near the center of the ballroom stood a small gathering of influential guests. Logan occupied the middle of the circle. Several investors surrounded him. Among them stood a striking brunette venture capitalist from San Francisco. Young. Successful. Connected. The type of woman social magazines featured regularly. Vanessa watched as Logan placed a hand gently against the woman's back. The gesture felt painfully familiar. Months earlier, Nathan had probably watched Logan touch her the same way. The realization struck harder than expected. A wave of nausea rolled through her. Still she approached. Still she needed answers. Still she needed something. Hope made people do foolish things. Logan. The group turned. Conversation paused. Logan looked annoyed. Only briefly. But Vanessa saw it. And once seen, it couldn't be unseen. We need to talk. The room became noticeably quieter. Logan seethed. Not dramatically. Just enough. What about? The question stunned her. What about? As if he genuinely didn't know. As if months of secrecy, promises, intimacy, and sacrifice had meant nothing. Vanessa swallowed. We need to talk about us. Silence. Several nearby guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Logan stared at her. Then something happened. Something she would remember for the rest of her life. He laughed. Not cruelly. Not loudly. Simply dismissively. As though the entire situation was absurd. Vanessa. The tone alone made her blood run cold. What exactly do you think this is? The words hit harder than any slap ever could. Around them, conversations stopped. People listened. People watched. The room suddenly felt much larger. And much smaller. At the same time. Vanessa felt panic rising. This isn't funny. No one's laughing. Logan's expression remained calm. Detached. Almost bored. The same expression Nathan had worn during recent months. The realization arrived too late. Much too late. You said. Logan interrupted. No. His voice remained controlled. I never said any of the things you're about to claim, I said. Vanessa stared. Unable to speak. Unable to breathe. Unable to think. The illusion was collapsing so quickly she couldn't keep up. You knew I was getting divorced. The words sounded desperate. Even to her. Logan shrugged. That was your decision. The sentence landed like a knife. Your decision. Not their future. Not their relationship. Not their plans. Your decision. Alone. Everything suddenly became horrifyingly clear. Nathan had not destroyed the marriage. Logan had not stolen her. She had walked willingly. Every step. Every lie. Every betrayal. Every choice. Then Logan delivered the final blow. The one that ended everything. I think you've misunderstood the nature of our relationship. The sentence echoed through the ballroom. Simple. Polite. Merciless. Several people looked away. Others pretended not to listen. Everyone heard it. Vanessa felt humiliation spreading through her like fire. Months of deception. Months of rationalization. Months of believing she was moving towards something better. All exposed. All meaningless. All for this. A man who couldn't even pretend to care. And then fate offered one final cruelty. Or perhaps one final act of justice. Because at that exact moment another guest entered the ballroom. Someone many attendees immediately recognized. Someone attracting attention from investors and media alike. Nathan Brooks. Vanessa turned instinctively. And forgot how to breathe. Nathan looked different. Not physically. Not dramatically. Something deeper. Confidence. Peace. Freedom. Over the previous months, while her life was collapsing, Nathan's had transformed. A major urban redevelopment project he had spent years designing had just received national recognition. The announcement had been covered throughout the architectural industry. Interviews. Awards. New partnerships. Career-defining success. The kind of achievement that changed lives. The kind of achievement Nathan once dreamed about. The kind of achievement he achieved after finally stopping his life from revolving around someone else's choices. He wasn't alone. Colleagues surrounded him. Investors greeted him. People respected him. Not because of wealth. Not because of status. Because of merit. Because he had built something real. Nathan noticed Vanessa. Of course he did. For a brief moment their eyes met across the ballroom. The entire journey seemed to pass between them. The anniversary message. The lies. The confrontation. The divorce. The collapse. Everything. Vanessa expected anger. Or satisfaction. Or triumph. Instead, she found something worse. Compassion. Nathan looked at her with the sadness reserved for people who have finally destroyed themselves. Then he offered a small nod. Nothing more. No mockery. No revenge. No public humiliation. Because he no longer needed it. The outcome already spoke for itself. Hours later, the gala ended. Guests departed. The city lights reflected across rain-covered streets. Nathan stepped outside into the cold Seattle night. The air felt different. Lighter. Cleaner. For the first time in over a year, he felt completely free. No investigations. No suspicions. No lies. No waiting. No hoping. Just peace. Behind him the ballroom doors opened. Vanessa emerged. Alone. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence felt strangely familiar. Like the final page of a long book. Eventually Vanessa looked at him. Tears filled her eyes. Real tears. Not defensive ones. Not manipulative ones. The tears of someone finally facing reality. I ruined everything. Nathan remained quiet. The rain fell softly around them. I thought I was choosing a better life. Her voice cracked. I thought I deserved more. Nathan looked toward the city skyline. Then back at her. What you deserved wasn't the problem. Vanessa lowered her head. What was? Nathan answered gently. You stopped appreciating what you already had. The words broke something inside her. Because they were true. Painfully true. For several moments neither moved. Then Vanessa whispered the question she should have asked months earlier. Can you ever forgive me? Nathan considered it. Carefully. Honestly. The answer mattered. Because it would be the last thing he ever owed her. Finally, he nodded. One day. Hope flickered briefly across her face. Then Nathan continued. But forgiveness and a second chance aren't the same thing. The hope vanished. Reality remained. At last. Vanessa began crying again. This time there was no defense left. No excuse. No blame. No manipulation. Only regret. Poor. Unavoidable. Permanent. She had lost her husband. Lost her marriage. Lost her future. Lost the man she believed she wanted. Most devastating of all, she had lost the version of herself she once respected. And for the first time, she understood the full cost of betrayal. Not what it does to others. What it eventually does to you. Nathan stepped toward the waiting car. Then paused. For years he had imagined growing old beside Vanessa. That future no longer existed. Surprisingly, he wasn't afraid. Because endings create space. Space for healing. Space for growth. Space for new beginnings. He opened the door. Vanessa stood beneath the rain watching him. Watching the last person who truly loved her walk away. This time forever. Nathan entered the car. The driver pulled away from the curb. And as Seattle's lights disappeared behind him, he felt something he had not experienced in a very long time. Freedom. Not the freedom of revenge. Not the freedom of victory over another person. Something better. The freedom of no longer carrying someone else's betrayal. Behind him, Vanessa remained alone beneath the rain. Finally understanding that some mistakes cannot be undone. Some opportunities never return. And some people only realize the value of what they had after they've lost it. The city swallowed the distance between them. One life moving forward. One life looking backward. And for the first time since that anniversary message appeared on his phone, Nathan Brooks never looked back.